Hello and welcome to the latest feature for the channel. We are doing the filmography ratings out of 5, which means we are going to go through a director or an actor's filmography and rate the movies out of 5 in tiers. So we're going to be looking at all the 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 stars. There's a few mixtures up here. We will also give a mention to the ones we have not seen yet. And when I put the question out, the first person to respond said Steven Spielberg. So we're going to dive in with Steven Spielberg's filmography out of 5. First up is the unseen movies. Now there aren't many on here, and a lot of them are the older movies of his filmography. First up is Amazing Stories. It's not one he has a main credit, it's one where it's just a couple of people directing. Never heard of it till I studied up on this. Next up is Firelight, which is actually his first feature movie. No idea with this one, but apparently it has aliens in it. Something that we know he likes doing. Then we have a movie called Savage. Again, know nothing about it. We'll need to do more research. Then we have Something Evil, another one from his very, very early books before all the bigger, more known movies. A horror one though, so I really should be checking this one out. Again, another one, Twilight Zone, the movie. He had a small part as a director, not a key director, but part of the franchise. And last but not least, it is E.T. This is the one that surprises people the most, that I have not seen. I maintain the fact that I will be saving this until I have children of my own to watch it and enjoy it for the first time with them. So, the good news for this whole series is we are going to be doing 1-star movies. The better news is there are no Steven Spielberg movies I give a 1 star to. So we're going to jump straight to the 2 stars. Again, this isn't going to be very many. He doesn't make bad movies. He makes a lot of what I would call average movies. So, the 2 stars? The BFG. For me, the BFG was one of the weaker movies. I really didn't enjoy this version of it. I grew up with the weird animated one that's very scary. This one just felt like a slug to get through. Very disappointing outing from somebody who's so good at telling fantasy stories. Next we have Hook. It's strange to see a Robin Williams movie so low on the list, but the Peter Pan genre is one I really just find kind of boring now. I didn't enjoy this one, may to do with a lot of hype that everyone's always said it's brilliant, but I personally just did not enjoy it. And the last one is The Adventures of Tintin. Again, another movie I just could not get into. It's another animated one. It has the weird CGI stuff that just didn't click. It was the style people were trying and hasn't really taken off in the years after. Tintin, again, isn't that interesting a character in live action to the feature length. You could get away with a good 30-minute story with Tintin, but full length doesn't really work. So that's it for the 2 stars. So that's telling you something, that I have a lot of respect for this director, because now it is the 3 stars. So, first up is 1941, a comedy that has dated a bit more than many people would imagine. It's one that, if I was to try and remember, it's one that I remember the least. I just remember it being about a town dealing with the incoming war, and it's so forgettable. It's why it's on the list. Next up is Always, a fantasy one about a pilot who died who tries to teach someone else to fly. I think, again, it's another pretty forgettable one, but it is well made for what it was. I think it had a great audience and it was different from a lot of the other movies he was making at the time. Bridge of Spies. It's one I really just did not enjoy, this one. It wasn't as exciting as I thought it could have been. Let's put it that way, even with Hanks in the leading role and the supporting actor, Oscar winner in Mark Rylance. Just not for me, this one. Then we have Jewel. This is the one that most people know as the one that truly put him on the radar. A tidy little thriller about a guy being stalked by a lorry driver across America. Then we have Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Yes, I am still giving this a 3-star. I watched this just when I was learning a bit more about film, so for me, all the indie movies are legendary. This one isn't legendary, but it's still fun and enjoyable, even with those weird CGI nonsense moments. Then we have The Post, another one of these political thrillers that just didn't really click for me. It's very American story based, and it's about something that really wasn't that interesting to watch. We've seen so many of these movies come and go. This just wasn't one for me. Another one of his older movies, The Sugarland Express. I did finally get to see this maybe a year ago now. It was very good for what it was. It's just not on the top tier of Steven Spielberg. And the last one on this list is War Horse. Another movie for me that just doesn't click, but tells a very good tale. Very well made movie, this one. But all of these are movies you're just not going to remember by the end of them. So, we're on to the 4-star. And as many of you could probably work out, we're going to have a lot more 4 and 5 stars than the rest. So, for the 4 stars, first up we have AI. Now, AI is one that I really do enjoy, even if it does get a bit of a bashing because of the ending. The idea of having a robotic child replacing a real one and then being dumped when the real one returns does have a story of David, the robot, trying to discover himself in the world and how the world of humans are not as good as the robots. We have some great effects in this movie and an ending that really, I feel, works for what David was trying to discover in the movie. Next up is Amistad. Amistad is one of the more underrated of his 90s because in the 90s he was on top of his game. And for Amistad, it is about a case involving trying to find out what happened on a slaver ship, and trying to try the men who fought for their freedom in the era when they wouldn't have stood a chance. We have Anthony Hopkins in this movie, of course, fantastic. We also have plenty of big names that appear in this movie, and when you watch it, you really didn't think it was going to be Spielberg because of the other movies he was making in the time. It is one you've really got to check out. It's one many people don't discuss when they talk about Spielberg, but it is better than a lot of the movies outside of the popcorn ones that he does. Next is Empire of the Sun, a nice little 80s movie about a child dealing with being in the war and prison camps. Excellent story. Young Christian Bale. John Malkovich is awesome. This is a great movie that showed some potential outside of the more fantasy-based movies he was known for at the time. We have The Lost World Jurassic Park. This is always going to be high on my list because I love the dinosaur movies. It may not be quite as good as Jurassic Park, but it still brought me dinosaurs for the second real time in my life. I'm always going to praise this movie, and I love it. So there, it's a 4-star for me. Another political one, we have Lincoln. This one jumps up a level purely because of Daniel Day-Lewis's performance. He absolutely nails this role. He steals everything. We can watch this movie and it not have much happen and you want to watch it, however long it is. Absolutely amazing movie. Ready Player One. This is one I didn't truly enjoy when I first watched it, but the second time it was just like, well, this is a bit of fun. There's so much going on. There's references you can pick up on every viewing. It is such an ambitious movie. It is truly worth watching. If you have a big fan of the pop culture phenomenon, you could have any sort of fandom here, getting a kick out of something that happens in this movie. Next we have Munich, another one of these thrillers in the aftermath of the Olympic shootings when the Germans go after the Israelis, or is it the other way around? It's the revenge for the people who got murdered. I really should have studied a bit more on Munich going into this one. but we have like the calm of whether we should take revenge on the people that killed our people, and it's just watching the hunt for these men that did this awful thing in the Olympics. It's well worth watching for the fantastic cast, but just if you know the Olympic story, you know who did what. Next up is The Terminal, and if we are going to be very picky, this is probably the weakest of the 4 stars, but Tom Hanks elevates this one as well. He plays a passenger stuck in an airport where he has to live because his country is no longer allowed, and he's not allowed to enter America, where he makes lots of friends and learns and helps people in life. Very charming little movie. Controversial here, Saving Private Ryan. If you do take out the phenomenally amazing opening sequence, it isn't the most interesting movie, but it is still an epic war tale. Watching the men travel across France, in this one's case, to try and find one soldier to save during the war is an amazing idea for a story, but the camaraderie just holds things back for me. It's what has made other war movies a lot more interesting in recent times, but nothing could take away that opening sequence and just the horrors of it. But it's still just a 4 star. And the final one is War of the Worlds. Yes, another one quite often gets forgotten about Spielberg doing. It's one that really does need an update. Tom Cruise again, he's brought another great actor, elevated a movie that could have been average without the right actor, and brought us something really amazing to watch, bringing to life the original radio station. So that is the 4-star movies. Now it's time to hit the 5 stars. Let's see what number 1 is going to be. Catch Me If You Can. This one follows Tom Hanks again, trying to track down a Leonardo DiCaprio who is a con artist running riot in America, and they have a weird bond between the two because it's taken years to catch him, and it's just very charming, very enjoyable movie, even though it's about a criminal outsmarting FBI agent. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the one that well and truly put the sci-fi world on notice that this man was going to be something special. It is definitely one you need to watch if you're a sci-fi fan. Easily one of the best 5 stars, without being an over-the-top alien movie as well. The Colour Purple can be a difficult watch, but is one that is an essential viewing to see how difficult it was for the black people of the 1800s trying to get into life after their freedom, and how they were still being held back by certain people in the world. And it follows one woman's heartbreaking story to survival and getting on with life almost. It is definitely one that's hard to watch, and my description has just made it sound horrendously bad. What can we say? Jaws. Dun 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 dun. Copyright strike. But hey, this movie is great. Let's beat around the bush. You are not going to make a shark movie better than this that barely even has the damn shark in it. It was terrifying for the era. The music was something that redefined this movie even higher. If you didn't have the score, you wouldn't have the suspense. If you didn't have the acting, the lines, the sequences, so thrilling, must-watch movie. From 1J to Jurassic Park we go. Dinosaurs I mentioned earlier, and this one, again, is a dinosaur movie I truly love. One of my first cinema experiences, and one I would always watch again because of the phenomenal effects in the movie. We're going to hit the Indiana Joneses here with The Last Crusade. Maybe the third one in the franchise, gets the most laughs, brings a bit lighter nature to what was a darker one before, and truly a great conclusion to a trilogy that never needed a sequel. Back to Minority Report. Tom Cruise again. A sci-fi movie that really goes under the radar when people think about sci-fi movies, about cops who fight pre-crime and then get framed for a crime and have to prove they haven't killed someone that they've never met. An absolutely brilliant idea for a movie executed so well by Spielberg and Cruise, of course. Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, the first, the rolling ball, something special once again. It introduced us to a character that became arguably one of the biggest icons in cinematic history. It is an essential viewing for anyone who loves an adventure movie and has been copied and ripped apart by people trying to recreate the magic of this movie for years. And the Temple of Doom, yes, it does get a 5-star in my eyes. I like the darker tone in this movie. It is actually my favourite indie movie. Yes, everyone's going to hate me for saying that, but I don't care. I just like the fact that this one doesn't hold back with being a jolly, here I'm a hero. It gets very dark and has some laughs along the way, which the first one didn't quite have as many. So yeah, I like this movie. And the last one is definitely the hardest one to watch, and that is Schindler's List. Probably, not even probably, definitely his best made movie. He deserved his Oscar for it. Let's not beat around the bush anymore. This is so hard to watch, but it is so brilliant in all the same ways. It isn't one you're going to put on every year to watch like some of the others on this list, but it is one that you have to have seen to understand the pain of what was happening in the war. Essential viewing completes the list, and that is the Steven Spielberg even. Top 5s. So how would you rate Steven Spielberg movies if you were to put them in brackets of 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 stars? Let me know in the comments below, and as always, thank you for watching, and if you like this idea, come back and we'll talk about bringing some more people to life in the filmography world. Thank you and goodbye.